my cultural presentation for the end of year. I'm going to be reporting on a Spanish church service at Iglesia de Dios. It's a Spanish church on Highway 49 out of Grass Valley. If you guys know where that is. So when I arrived there, we accidentally arrived half an hour early, and it gave me a chance to talk to some of the ladies in the church. And so they came up and talked about what my major was and had me try and talk to them in Spanish. Simple things like my name and where I lived and that I had 5 brothers and, all those simple things. So after about half an hour of that, we took our seats only to stand up again for singing, and we sang for about half an hour. The first song I knew the tune to from the church that I go to, but the rest of them were these completely unique songs. And it was very interesting because they didn't have words up on a screen, so I was just trying to listen to this and figure out the choruses and try and sing along with them. And it was beautiful. There were people around the sides of the room that were waving flags, mostly children. There must have been 8 of them all around. And the room, they had papel picado, the cut paper decorations that are very common in parties and festivities. Those were sort of the only other Hispanic decorations around the room. There were the fruits of the spirit written in paper on the walls, but those were all actually in English. So that was kind of interesting to see the little mix of culture there. So after we sang for about half an hour, there was testimonies. And so there must have been, 8 people that got up and gave testimonies. And I couldn't understand a lot of what they were saying. There was a lot of amen and hallelujah from a lot of the people from the church. That's just constant praise. And the one lady, she sounded very, very sad. She kept on saying, estoy muy triste. And she was pregnant and she was saying something about her baby. And I don't know what it was, but that was just trying to figure that out, sitting there listening to this in Spanish. It was a very emotional time in the service. And that was the only, I think, sad testimony. The rest were just happy and joyous, and it was just beautiful. After that, we had a service that was done actually by the pastor's wife. And it was pretty interesting because we had gone to this service the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And so her sermon was about material things and how material things will not fill your heart, only God will. And so it was very interesting because you could hear all this talking about Thanksgiving and familia and the pavo, the turkey, the mashed potatoes. They actually said that in English. It was kind of funny. But they were talking about all that, and Black Friday, talking about JCPenney and different stores and shoes and shirts, and how none of that's going to fill your heart. And so that was really interesting because I could understand some of that from what I've learned in Spanish. I could understand some of those words. So that was just a really cool thing there. And after that service, they prayed, and they must have prayed 10 minutes probably. They prayed, and just over and over, gracias, gracias. They were just thanking and praising, and it was just beautiful to hear for this time. And people in the church were kneeling with their folded hands on their chairs, just praying and praising God. And it was this beautiful culture that you saw, this kind of mix of quiet and outspoken, almost, just all this stuff that it was weird to see out of the setting of normal life. Like, some of it seemed normal, like regular church service, and some was just completely unique seeming. And yeah, it was the first Hispanic church service I had ever been to. So seeing that culture was a really, really interesting part of it. Hope you guys enjoyed those. So I really liked their singing. Like, everybody was just really loud, and they didn't care if they were really on key. There was a lady that was to the side of me that had a tambourine, and she was completely offbeat with it, but nobody cared. And it was just really cool, free environment, kind of. And the kids that were waving the flags around the room, that was just that little aspect of culture that I thought was really special. So I thought I'd elaborate a little bit more on what happened before the service. That was when I met 3 women from the church. One was Maricela, and she works at a nursing home, and she was talking to me about that, and I was talking to her about how I want to be a nurse. And that was interesting, and she was telling me that she learned English from cartoons, and that I could learn Spanish pretty well from cartoons, like Dora the Explorer, she said. And so that was really fun talking to her. And she didn't speak a ton of English, so she had her friend kind of translate some of her stuff for her. So that was cool. But we both kind of had broken language to talk to each other with. So that was cool, being like, I'm not really the only one here that doesn't know how to speak the other person's language. I really liked the difference in how they prayed versus, like, what I've seen in prayer in, like, the, I don't know, American Christian community, I guess you might think of it. It seemed like what I'd experienced in my own church was, like, a quick prayer, and then it's done. But there was like a lot of prayer and just so much thanks and worship and praise. And that was just a really cool thing that I saw. So, to recap, I went to Iglesia de Dios, and it's actually in the basement of a church called Bethel on Highway 49 near Grass Valley. And it's a small community, only 30 or 40 people were there, I'd say, including my mom and I. But they were all just, really varied ages, babies to seniors, and seeing that in such a small community was really cool. This culture spread down from the older to the younger people. And so, yeah, that's kind of just my recap. It's been great having Spanish with all of you guys this year. Great seeing all your discussion posts and answering to those. And it's just been a really great semester. And I hope you guys get to great things in your life. Have a happy holiday season.
Chama sobre as águas, onde os meus pés podem